Hello, AC Keeble here. I know it's been a long time since my last video. Events that have happened in the world since the last video was made have, affected my schedule for video making, so that's led me to having to carry on with my blogging through writing rather than video making. Sorry if the video quality is a bit low. I'm filming this out in the great outdoors in my garden on a boiling hot summer's day. Around this time I would probably have gone to Southend or go into Romford Market to soak up some of the sun and get myself a nice refreshing ice cream. This being a hot day, I decided to share some stories with you today about something that has happened in my work. COVID-19 having paralysed the world's economy and transportation of goods all across the face of the planet has led to some people having to work from home. Something that doesn't affect me as much because I work from home myself, and I've managed to secure a business with a water company, a water purification company, for my project in bringing a new source of water using the rainwater from the Gulf of Guinea region. More on that later. But for now, I want to talk to you about some home-based science that I've been doing to help keep your garden keep your garden plants freshly drenched with water on this hot summer's day. Think back, if you will, to that great heat wave we had in 2018, where the entire country was baked in a heat wave all the way from May until September, October. I remember it myself. It was so hot that I could barely walk, and I required a constant amount of water. It also got to me that we as a nation are gardening lovers, but we're also not very clever with the way in which we have enough water to water our plants. One part of the country will go into a hosepipe ban, but the other half will probably have some water left over to avoid such a ban. But I have found some inspiration from this book which I read last year called Let There Be Water by Seth M. Siegel. When the Jews arrived in what was to become the modern state of Israel today, they found that it was a desert nation with very, very little water that could not sustain a Jewish homeland, yet alone become the land of milk and honey, as Moses described it in the Torah. But through a number of ingenious devices, many Jewish scientists set out to make this land of milk and honey thrive again with access to a sustainable water supply. And today, Israel, a small desert nation in the Middle East, doesn't just have a plentiful supply of water, but an abundance of it. And one gadget that springs to mind that I've read in this book is by an inventor called Simcha Blass. In 1933, he was visiting a friend somewhere in Israel. Well, what was then British Mandate Palestine at the time. What Simcha Blass had seen was a row of trees along his friend's house. Of these trees, one of them stood out as significant. It had grown significantly taller than the other trees in the row, and this was on a hot day somewhere where the rest of the trees had all received the same amount of water, but this tree was very special. Simcha walked over to the tree, and he noticed that his neighbour's that the neighbour of his friends had a leaky pipe that was letting water trickle directly into the root of the plant. He realised that small tricklets of water getting into the pipe had trickled directly into the roots of the tree, and thus had allowed it to grow exponentially taller than the other trees in that row. What Simcha had discovered was a new type of water, a kind of water irrigation system that would later become known as drip irrigation technology. Now, to grow trees, you would have to, or any plants for that matter, you would have to water them constantly so they get an ample amount of sunlight and water. However, the amount of water you get, also, you give to the plant, does not always work effectively. Studies have shown that flood irrigation, which uses vast pools of water to flood the bed of the plants, is very, very wasteful. Only 50% of the water is absorbed by the root of the plant itself. The rest is either absorbed into the soil or is evaporated into the air. Another type of irrigation technology, sprinklers, is also not as effective, but a little bit less wasteful. Only 30% of water from sprinkling is lost to evaporation or irrigation, evaporation or absorption into the soil, right? With drip irrigation, only 4% of the water is lost to evaporation or absorption into the soil. This is because by directing the water into the roots of the plant rather than the whole bed, you can concentrate it directly into the roots and thus reduce the wastage on the water. So it's a 96% efficiency in irrigating the plants. Israel uses this across its entire its entire agriculture network to grow the plants in the desert, and thanks to that they've been able to produce over billions of dollars worth of produce to be fruits and vegetables to be distributed across the world. Now, imagine if we in Britain adopted drip irrigation technology. We could water all our plants with as little water as possible, and with rainwater harvesting, have an abundance of it stored on the side so that we could grow the plants without the need for hosepipe bans. In fact, you don't even need to worry about using a hosepipe to water your plants. You can just create a drip irrigation system, and it's a relatively cheap and effective means of production. Just for fun, I built this yesterday. It's a homemade drip irrigation bottle designed for one root of a plant. It's quite primitive, but it's quite a fun. I built it for fun, and also to experiment with a bit of drip irrigation myself. What I did was get a plastic steel stake to put into the ground, and using duct tape attach this plastic lemonade bottle with the end of it slightly ajar to allow the water in, and at one end I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but I put a cap on the end, but I punched a hole into the cap so that it trickles the water out. I tested it myself. Well, I tested two caps to get the hole size right, and with this I managed to water a single plant very effectively, and concentrate all the water directly into the roots. I would heartily recommend making one of these yourself. They cost peanuts to make, and it would be if it works well, you could later consider investing in a proper water irrigation system to go across the entire flower bed. Now, perhaps we can move on to, let's see. Well, I think that's all for now. We can, I'll make another video later when I've got my content plan revised. I've only making this video to give you an update on my activities and to show you a little gardening project that you can do in your own home, and to bring water to an efficient water supply to your plants, just to well, make use of your time in lockdown. We can't go out to places to socialise that much, because what with the way the COVID-19 virus has affected our social abilities, we can concentrate our time productively in places which we've left idle for many times. Earlier this year, just as lockdown started, we used the time, me and my family used the time productively to well, do a number of DIY projects across the house that we had left untouched for years and have finally got round to doing, including painting the fences, getting our gazebo fixed, which got damaged by a storm earlier this year, and some other odds and sods which we have on our list. Right, I do hope you'll take inspiration from this to show how to water your plants in a more effective way. I myself am investing my time in studying water technology, and I'll be going back to university later this year, specifically a distance learning university, so even if the schools are reopened amid COVID, I'll be home-based studying, so I don't need to run the risk of catching an infection from the deadly coronavirus. Right, don't forget to subscribe to this blog. Follow my blog at acckeeble.co.uk, and I will get back to you sometime in the future once I've got my content plan updated. Goodbye.